Today on Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Purdue Boilermakers, a team that was 2-4 overall in the 2020 season. And this Purdue team, of course, last season kind of struggled. They got 2 wins to start off the season, and overall looked like a pretty good season at the start. But of course, they took 4 straight losses to finish out the season. But this Purdue team, I do think going into next season, in a way, does have potential to definitely be in contention, at least for a bowl game, which would be a huge accomplishment for this team. And whether or not this team will be going to a bowl game next season is what we'll be going over here today. We're going to go and get started with Purdue's final prediction, and we'll be looking at your season trends to get things started here. Once again, this team was 2-4 overall. And once again, this team in general, I mean, with only 6 games last season, it just was a weird year for a lot of teams in the Big Ten and across the nation. And for Purdue, this is a team that I think last season did have plenty of talent. I mean, if you look at their quarterback position, you had 2 pretty good quarterbacks there. Aiden O'Connell and Jack Plummer both actually played pretty well. Very underrated quarterbacks there. I mean, both put up some great accuracy rates, some pretty good touchdown interception ratios as well. So this team definitely, I think, does have some good potential going to next season once again, and we'll get into your returning production in a second. But looking at this team across the board, they beat Iowa 24-20. That was a huge win there. Of course, Iowa last season was a pretty good team, so that was the signature win for sure for the Boilermakers in 2020. Also beat Illinois, fighting Illini 31-24. That was a road matchup, so big win there as well. You lost to Northwestern by 7, and the reason why I put that in the notable game category is mainly because, I mean, you kept it really close against a very good Northwestern team last season. Obviously, the Wildcats went on to be in the Big Ten Championship, and you also lost to Minnesota on the road 31-34, but once again, Minnesota last season was a pretty good team, and also you kept it really close. So this team was pretty close to being a 3-3, even a 4-2 team last season. They just were on the wrong end of a lot of close matchups. But once again, this team was 2-4 in 2020. Looking at 2021 here, of course, this is your returning production. Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell are both going to be back for next season. You got both their quarterbacks coming back, and both quarterbacks almost split identical time last season. I mean, both quarterbacks threw about 130 times, and of course, Aiden O'Connell put up 900 yards, and Jack Plummer also put up 900 yards. So we had 2 quarterbacks who almost had identical stats and almost the same playing time last season. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they play next season. But Aiden O'Connell put up also 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and Jack Plummer put up 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions last season. So it'll be interesting to see how Purdue handles this quarterback situation, and whether or not they put one quarterback in the primary starting position, or whether or not they kind of split the quarterbacks once again, similar to how they did it last season. But Xander Horvath is coming back for next season. He was your top running back last year. He put up 740 yards, 2 touchdowns as well. David Bell, your top receiver last season, is also coming back. Milton Wright, your second wideout, is also coming back. So running back core looks great with Horvath. I like him quite a bit. Receiving core with your top 2 receivers coming back, that's going to be huge as well. Looking at Milton Wright there, he put up 300 yards, and of course David Bell was a standout receiver for this team, put up 600 yards and 8 touchdowns. So this team looks pretty good across the board offensively. I really like the skill players here on this Purdue team going to next year, and once again, the quarterback situation is definitely the most interesting position going into next season. But of course, Rondale Moore, he did not play much last season, of course, for this team, but he did put up 300 yards and a touchdown. But of course, he was a big player back in 2019, didn't play much in 2020, but of course, he is not going to be back for next season. You do lose 1 offensive lineman, 1 defensive lineman as well, and then 2 linebackers going to next season. You also lose 1 in the secondary. So defensively, you lose 4. That's not too concerning, but it's definitely something to note. But this team definitely, I think, has got some chance of making it to a bowl game next season. I don't think this team is going to be much higher than 6 wins. I think this team's range is anywhere between 4 and 6 wins next season. I just think, I mean, this team looks pretty good in the returning production. The problem is this team just needs to improve a ton. Last season, there was just a lot of problems offensively, and really both sides of the ball defensively too. This team was just not very good. And so the talent here definitely needs to improve going into next season. This team's got to improve a ton if they're going to make it to a bowl game. And you also got to make sure that you win those close games. Like for Purdue last season, if this team could have won those close games, I mean, they could have been 4-2 or even 5-1, which they were pretty close. I mean, this team was pretty good once again last season. They just were so close yet so far in getting some of those close wins. So that's going to be a huge part of next season. But how high could this team get next season? I mean, if you're looking at a 12-game season, I think this Purdue team definitely is capable of getting up to 6 or 7 wins, but it's going to be tough. You also got a pretty tough schedule here looking at your schedule now. You got Oregon State, Power 5 opponent there in your non-conference matchup. Then you got UConn on the road, Notre Dame on the road as well. So you've actually got a tough schedule next season, having to play Notre Dame on the road and, of course, a road game in UConn too. So this is not an easy schedule for Purdue next season. You got Illinois at home for your first conference matchup. You got Minnesota and Iowa to follow. Wisconsin at home, Nebraska on the road. Then you got Michigan State at home, Ohio State and Northwestern both on the road. Then Indiana to finish out the season. So that's the problem here for this Purdue team is your schedule. You've got a brutal schedule for next season, and really, it just does not give you a break. You got 2 road matchups for your non-conference games against a pretty good team there with Notre Dame too. You got them in week 3, and Oregon State is also a team that you don't want to sleep on. So once again, pretty tough schedule, and that's kind of unfortunate for this team because if you could have had 3 easy wins in your non-conference games, I do think this team would have a chance at making it to a bowl game, but it's going to be pretty tough with your schedule. So looking at September here, Oregon State is going to be an easy win. I consider putting that as a yellow matchup, making it a close win, but I'm going to give you the advantage against Oregon State. I think you come to play in that matchup and gets the win. UConn, you're going to win that matchup as well. UConn is a pretty terrible team. Notre Dame, however, not the chances of you winning that game are not very high. That's going to be a good team next season. I still expect Notre Dame to potentially be a collegible playoff contender, so I've got them getting the win there. Illinois, that's going to be a home matchup. You're going to get the win there, but it's going to be close. Very close matchup there. But you do get the win against Illinois. So you're going to be 3-1 heading into October. Not a bad situation. If you can be 3-1 heading through your September, I do think that's a pretty good position to be in, considering you do have a pretty tough month in September. October, though, that's also going to be a really tough month there. You got 4 really tough matchups. Once again, though, this team just has got a brutal schedule next season. I mean, considering this team isn't a very good or a very talented team, that's definitely going to be tough on them. But Minnesota, tough game. Iowa, I mean, same thing with Wisconsin and Nebraska as well. I do think you end up losing all 4 games in October, but I do think you keep it close against Minnesota. That's going to be a close one there, but otherwise I think you do end up losing by significant margins against the rest of the teams. As for your November, so you come in with a 3-5 record. You need 3 of your last 4 games to be wins, which, I mean, looking at how tough your November is, the odds of that are quite low. But I do have you getting 1 win, and that's going to be against Northwestern. You're going to go into Northwestern and get a huge upset win. Northwestern, either way, I don't expect much out of them next season, which is kind of an unpopular opinion. But I think Northwestern next season is going to be having a tough time even getting up to 6 wins. So Northwestern next season, if you look at their return in production, it's just horrendous offensively. So Northwestern, I don't expect much out of them. You will get the win against them, but you will lose to Michigan State, Ohio State, and Indiana in the end. So 4-8 is going to be a record for next season. Once again, that's probably a disappointing record for you fans looking at this video today. But once again, this is just a tough schedule for this team. If you had a somewhat easier schedule, I mean, there's a chance this team could make it to a bowl game, but I mean, I just don't see it for next season right now, but there is a chance. Once again, just because I predict 4-8 doesn't mean this team can't get up to 6 wins. I mean, it's still a possibility. I just don't see it right now. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this team. I appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.